Okay, I think we can get started now, and if more people trickle in, I'll just let them in. Thanks for coming, everyone. We are so excited to have this event with Miss Eka Okaubasi. She is an industrial engineer at Weber, and she's a vice president of Sourcing-Commodities. So again, like always, if possible, please try to turn on your cameras, and you can ask questions throughout her presentation. Just raise your hand or show some signal, and she'll answer your question.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Before I start, yeah, if everyone can turn on your cameras, I want to see all your lovely faces. But if we can just briefly, can you guys introduce yourselves to me? You know, who you are, where you are in school, and what your interests are before I start my presentation?
Yeah, I can get started. As you know, I'm Iman. I'm a junior at Walter Payton, and I'm a co-president of CASE. Jason, do you want to go next?
My camera isn't really working, but I'm Jason. I'm a sophomore at Lane, and I play boys volleyball.
Cool. Nice to meet you, Jason. I see Sarah's name on my screen. Sarah Moreno.
Hi, I'm a senior in Jones College Prep, and I am interested in civil engineering.
Cool. And on my screen, I see Bianca.
Hi, good morning. I am a senior at George Westinghouse College Prep, and I'm interested in architectural engineering.
Cool. And then I see Ebenezer. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, that's how you say it, Ebenezer. Hello, my
Cool.
name is Ebenezer. I'm a senior at Sand High School, and I'm interested in mechanical engineering.
Cool. And then I see Sitlali.
Yeah, it's Sitlali.
Okay, love it.
And I go to George Westinghouse College Prep. I'm a senior, and I'm also interested in mechanical engineering.
Cool. And I think the last is Nafisa.
Hello. I'm a senior at Lincoln Park High School. I'm interested in environmental engineering.
Okay. All right. So thank you all for joining. So I'm going to introduce myself through by sharing my screen. Let me do that right now. And please let me know if you guys can see my screen.
We can see it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm volunteering on behalf of Chicago Engineers Foundation, and this is Meet the Engineer. So I heard you guys haven't seen an industrial engineer before, so I'm going to kind of explain what I do. So my name is Eka Okaubasi. I am an industrial engineer, and I'm actually Canadian. So I was born and raised in Canada, and I'll tell that story how I got to the US. But I did my degree in Bachelor's of Applied Science, and typically that's what a lot of these degrees are. And then you major in the engineering. So at the University of Toronto in Canada is where I did my degree, and it's a Bachelor of Applied Science in Industrial Engineering. So in that school, everyone gets a Bachelor of Applied Science, and then their core is either mechanical, industrial, whatever it is. So I did mine in industrial engineering. And it says what my job title is. And I'm saying former vice president of sourcing because a lot of things happened this week. Weber is going through some financial struggles. And you guys are going to see this as you're in business. A lot of companies have this. And what they did what they call a RIF, which is a reduction in force. So this is kind of the second round they did. And unfortunately, I was on that cut for the second round. And they let go of a lot of top level people, vice presidents, senior vice presidents, just so that they can manage their cash flow. Unfortunate, but I can still tell you what I do and what I've been doing in engineering going through. My introduction, and I want to let you know this because I do a lot besides working full time. I am a wife and mother of 3 children. So I know I may look young, but I got little mini adults at home. So I have a 25-year-old daughter who just completed her master's in exercise science. And she's actually starting work next week at Northwestern, the university / hospital, as an exercise physiologist. I have one of my children that became an engineer. He got a bachelor's in engineering technology out of Western Illinois. And he currently works as an application engineer for a company called Amatec in St. Charles. And they do like gears and motors. So basically, in Amazon warehouses, the conveyors that go through that company creates the motors and gears for those conveyors. So they do that. Then my youngest is a senior at Minnesota State Mankato. He's majoring in sports management and also is ranked 8th nationally in the NCAA for triple jump. So he actually is on a track scholarship doing triple jump, and he's in his senior year. Besides me doing engineering, I am also, as you can see in the pictures, I am a competitive pro bodybuilder. I turned pro in 2017 and competed in over 20 shows since 2016. And I'm also a personal trainer and nutrition specialist. So I'm putting that out there because I want everyone to know that you're not only your job, and you should also have some other interests besides your profession. And so, when I'm finished my 9 to 5, and I won't say 9 to 5, it might be 8 to 6, 8 to 7. I'm working out, I'm training people, I'm doing all of that stuff. So that's kind of the brief intro of me. And before I continue, I just want to know if anyone has questions so far. Nope.
Oh, was it hard to juggle like your personal life and your work life?
It is, but I think one of the things you guys will learn and understand, you're probably seeing it in school, is how to manage your time. So I tell people I make the most of my waking hours. So because I'm a competitive bodybuilder and I compete on stages between 3 and 5 times a year. My last one was about 2 weeks ago in Peoria. I make sure I can get everything done when I'm awake. So my day usually starts at 4:45 in the morning, and I head to the gym at 5:30. 5:30, I'm at the gym, and I do my cardio most of the time because that's usually the longest, and the weights are typically later. After I do cardio, I get home, shower, and I get in the car and go to work. And at the time where I was working was in Palatine. And I usually take at least one meeting on the way to work. And so I continue my day. And after work is when I do the rest of my workout. So sometimes I tell people you don't have to finish your whole workout in one session. You can split it. It's the same benefit. So I typically will go after work and work out. And then when I get home at times, because I deal with a lot of overseas suppliers, I will then get on calls at about 7:30 or 8 with Asia just because of the time difference. It's their morning, and there's sometimes tasks I want them to do during their day. So I will continue some work at times, probably 2 to 3 times a week in the evening. And I just make sure I get to bed by 10 because I got to wake up at 4:45 again the next morning. So I always tell people that one of the greatest skills you need to have is time management. So we have a lot of waking hours, and you need to manage that time appropriately. And especially when you're in college, you can probably do that because there's a lot of gaps in your time in your schedule that you can do other things. And it really helps in terms of brain development as well. Just to have that kind of pause from textbooks and things like that and doing something else. It's definitely a growth opportunity. And for me, it's given me so much confidence that I was constantly promoted throughout my career, where I started, as an engineer, as a process engineer on a manufacturing floor, to being a VP in a company, as everyone knows, Weber Grill. So time management, that's the key. So let me speak about industrial engineering, because a lot of people hear it, but probably don't know what it is. And, industrial engineering actually started as a branch of mechanical. So there's a lot of core competencies in industrial engineering that's also in mechanical engineering. But there is a difference, and I'll kind of explain that in the next slide. But I did want to let you guys know, just because tech careers are very, very important. And in engineering in itself is one of the highest starting salaries coming out of college. Probably the one higher than that might be computer science, but it is tech careers that are higher in terms of starting salary. And I think to date, and this is probably from 2022, the last stats, engineers to date on average have the second highest starting salary in the USA. And I would say the industrial engineer is probably about 70K. Everyone else right out of college is in that range, probably 70 to 75K. But what an industrial engineer is, they are concerned with the optimization or the robustness of complex processes and systems in an organization. So they look at ways on developing and improving systems of people. And I think that is one of the distinguishing factors. Industrial engineers look a lot at the human factor and making sure that the human can be part of this system and work with the system well. So overall, I would say we improve processes. That's what industrial engineers do. And I just wanted to kind of show this. These are the stats of the starting salaries. And as you can see, it's engineering and computer science, I was right, that are in the top 1 and 2. The STEM careers overall, as you can see, have some of the highest salaries. And I know there's a lot of growing engineering disciplines. I heard someone say they wanted to do environmental. Perfect. Because again, throughout my career, even as an engineer, there are a lot of environmental regulations that keep popping up in terms of manufacturing industries, just to make sure our environment is whole. And when we are reducing or getting rid of metal products, that we have a proper way of disposing them, and also making sure the materials don't come from any prohibited substances. So I would say environmental engineering is probably going to be a very big and growing engineering discipline as well. Any questions? So what I was saying about industrial engineering, how it's different from other engineering disciplines, is that we consider the human factor and its relation to the situation or the technical aspects of any situation. While, other engineering disciplines focus on the design of, I'm going to say, inanimate objects. So, for instance, I've heard a lot of people want to be mechanical engineers. So let's look at a chair, for example. A mechanical engineer will design the chair and say it needs 4 legs. They will decide the thickness of the legs. They will decide the back and how high the back should be. They would decide the width of the seating area. An industrial engineer will think of the person sitting on that chair and will think, hey, they need to be comfortable. So maybe make the thickness of the seat thicker. Maybe add a curvature on the back of the chair for back support. And that's where we get integrated into the system. So we could be part of the design, but also we consider the human that's going to be using and being part of that system. And industrial engineers as well, their discipline is quite broad. I have many colleagues and coworkers that work in the following industries, as you can see. So we aren't usually pigeonholed to just manufacturing. I have colleagues in banks because they work on the back end in terms of information systems, data loads, databases. Many are in manufacturing because we are there to make sure we optimize the production and scheduling process. Many are in communications. That's, the phone systems, Motorola, things like that. Lots in the government. I said transportation because there's probably an industrial engineer behind the traffic lighting system and the scheduling of the traffic lights and traffic flow. That is part of industrial engineering. Lots are in sports. And when I say sports, if you guys think you watch football or you watch basketball and you see the stats of certain players, it's probably an industrial engineer or an engineer working on the database, the statistics, the data to create all those trends. You guys probably do that in math as well, but there's an engineer behind all those sports stats. Entertainment, sales, travel. Travel is a good one. Another one when we think about scheduling of planes. A lot of the air traffic control people are IEs because we want to make sure that the planes land at the right time with the right spacing between, that no two planes are at the same runway at the same time. That's usually an industrial engineering function because we do work a lot on operations management and scheduling and process flows. There's travel and there's purchasing, like me. So in purchasing, we deal with not only the suppliers and the management of suppliers, but drawings and prints, which probably every engineer will see. Again, to make a grill, there are probably over 1,000 components that go into the making of the grill. My job was in charge of all the suppliers that source those individual components to make sure they meet the prints, they meet the specifications, they meet the quality, and they meet the pricing. So we do a lot of analysis on price forecasting, what the pricing should be, looking at, again, with materials, steel and metal, they are commodities that have trends on pricing. We study those trends to make informed decisions in terms of with Weber on how they should price a grill. Any questions so far? You guys are pretty quiet. Nothing? Okay. So let me go through my engineering experience. So my early engineering interests, especially when it comes to industrial engineers, I was very interested in time studies. So we do industrial engineers, their core competency is time and motion studies. So one of my very first jobs, I was a process engineer in a rubber plant. And this was a plant that actually took rubber and recycled it and made it into big sheets. And we actually made mud flaps that you probably see now on the big rigs and trucks on the road. We actually die cut and made those mud flaps and actually put a print on it based on the logo of the company. So I was one of the people that actually had a stopwatch and look to see how long it took for an operator to cut a part and how many parts they can cut. And my job was to see how I can improve that task. So an operator may, for instance, I could time it and it might take a minute to complete the task. And I noticed based on the motions, it took that operator 6 steps to do to complete the task. My job was to see how they can reduce those steps and shorten the time to get a better cycle time and more output. So that was kind of one of my early interests, to see how quickly can someone actually do a task and do it as efficiently as possible. So for a lot of my career, I held a stopwatch and time people and time systems and timed, processes. So that's what I did. About the education, the school and program, I didn't know at the time when I started that industrial engineering existed. I knew a lot of the core ones. Like you guys mentioned mechanical, I knew aerospace, I knew chemical, I knew civil and architectural. I didn't know any other disciplines. And it was my dad and an algebra teacher in high school that introduced me to engineering because I knew I loved the maths and sciences. And I was asked to go to a seminar at the local university, and it was the University of Toronto at the time. And they had this seminar on women in engineering. Because when my dad actually told me, hey, you should be an engineer, I actually said to him, but dad, engineering is for boys. And boy, was I wrong. And I'm glad to see some females here. Not to discount the guys, but I'm totally glad to see the females because, again, any job is for anyone as long as you have the skill set and interest. And I always tell people if you're passionate about something, you will definitely do well in it. And you will also definitely make a lot of money doing it because you have passion for it. And some of the courses I took in high school and college, calculus and algebra, I mean, I totally love the maths, physics, statistics. And even when I started at the University of Toronto, the first year was basically a lot of core engineering. So I took a mechanical engineering course, I took an electronics engineering course. So I dabbled in a few to say, hey, do I really want to do industrial engineering? And so those were kind of the things I did. And really, I would say you should love math, but I'm not going to say like every day I'm not pulling out a calculus equation to do what I need to do to complete my task at work now. So I always tell people the math is literally the background for you to understand that there are logical steps to get to a solution and to solve a problem. Because at the basic core, engineers are problem solvers. That's what we are. Any questions so far?
Do you recommend taking any internships or being in any programs before going into college?
Totally. I mean, even if it's not in high school or in college, I do recommend that in between, if it's your summer, to do an internship because you will get a job very quickly after school. And when I went to school, they actually had what they called a professional experience year. So you could either do a 4-year or take a gap year and work for an engineering discipline for 1 year, but you'll finish a year later. So you will be in there for 5 years. However, they've changed that now. And I'm going to reference my son, who got his bachelor's in engineering technology. He did an internship during his summer, and he worked for an engineering firm in Elgin as an applications engineer. And he did that the whole summer, was paid as part of the internship, and it was part of his courses. And because he did it in the summer, he actually finished a half a semester earlier because it went towards his credits. The great thing is that where he worked, if he wanted to, he could apply after he graduated and be in a mid manager's position because of his work there over the summer. And he chose not to do that, but he was one, and I always think he's an outlier, but he graduated last December and he got full-time employment in January. Literally, he got a job within 6 weeks of him graduating. And it helped him because he had experience. So I totally recommend if you can do an internship, even if it's in a semester that you did, if it's during the summer, do it. It literally gets you heads above anyone else that's applying for the same job. Bar none. So I'm saying this for my daughter too, not engineering, but she did exercise science. One semester, she did an internship along with school, and she worked at the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio because she really wanted to focus on cardiac rehab. So she literally did an internship at a hospital that she could see cardiac patients. She can help with cardiac patients. And to this day now, she has a job exactly where she is in line with her work at Northwestern. So if anything, if you guys even have a little thought of internship, I would recommend it. And you go to college, ask if they have an internship program, and for sure do it. So I'm showing my engineering experience. I put everything in the past tense now. Was the vice president of sourcing and worked for Weber in Palatine, Illinois. The headquarters is in Palatine, where they actually make the grills, because they manufacture the grills in the US, is in Huntley, Illinois. Have a very big plant there where they do most of the bigger grills that you see, like charcoal, the Genesis. But there are quite a few smaller grills that get fully made in China and shipped to the US to be bought. So if I had to describe my engineering experience, because it says, what is a typical day or week as an engineer? The great thing is there is no typical day. It's every day is another adventure, is what I always say. Like, I've been working for, over 20 years. I always start the day with kind of like, these are the things I want to accomplish. And yes, I will accomplish them. Some I won't, but something always comes up that's different. I mean, there was, for instance, we manage suppliers and their delivery of parts, making sure they're, meeting print and at the right price. But I could come in, and I can give an example where I came in and I got a call from one of my suppliers, and they basically said, we're going bankrupt. We're not making enough money. Come and pick up your tools. So what do? So now we had to think of a plan of who else in our supply base is capable of making these parts that this supplier was. So we had to have some emergency sessions. We had to call some other suppliers. We actually had to do more pricing and quoting, but that's what happened that day. It wasn't planned, but we had to solve a problem, and we had to do it quickly based on our analysis. So I would say, like anyone doing engineering, if they ask you if there's a typical day, there isn't. And I think I like that every day is a little bit different, and every day has a new adventure and a new problem to solve. So let me continue to talk about some of my interesting projects, because throughout my career, even as an engineer, I did a lot of different things. So while I was in school, between my third and fourth year, final year, I worked for a generic drug company, and I was in IT. So I created a database system for ordering the ingredients that makes these generic drugs. And in engineering and even in high school, you learn how to code in different software languages. So I knew how to code in several languages. However, when I got to this job, they gave me a software language that I've never coded in before. And so during the summer, that was kind of my job, learning the code, creating the database, debugging the code, and getting it done. So by the end of the summer, I created a system for them for ordering. But that's when I realized that this wasn't part of industrial engineering that I liked, because I was never with people. I didn't engage with people. I just engaged with a computer and systems. So I always say it's nice to kind of dabble in stuff to see what you truly like, because a lot of the engineering experience you're going to have is going to be very broad, depending on the company and organization. And then number two, as part of being an engineer, there was one year I was actually a project manager. I worked for an automotive company, and we wanted to put in a brand new plant in Mexico. So I was the project manager, and I traveled to Mexico for 2 years, at least once a month for the work week, help with putting the building together. And definitely a very different experience for me, but my engineering degree helped because of the technical background I have, the problem solving skills that I had, that we were able to put this building up. And to the point, I became a non-engineer and was an event coordinator during the grand opening. And I say this because I had to go to the governor of Mexico, to his office, and extend a personal invitation to him to come to the grand opening. So I always tell people this was like kind of like this out of box experience. And with this company, I actually won, and my team won an award through the corporate headquarters in Japan for getting this building done on time and within our time frame. So that was a very interesting project for me. And that took me kind of out of engineering in terms of core engineering, but still the disciplines of problem solving and time management were still there. So one of the best parts about being an engineer is that there's always a project that needs improvement. So there's always things you can look at and say, hey, we can make it better. This is why engineering will be one of those forever careers. It will never die. So it's a really great career to be in because there's always something changing and always something that requires improvement. It's called continuous improvement for a reason. And industrial engineers, that is their core. Their core is continuous improvement. So I would say, as part of my challenges as well, is learning. And even at my age, you can always learn. And this is what I like about when I moved to Weber. I had to learn a new industry. I went from automotive, parts that belong in cars, to now consumer goods, so grills that people cook on. Totally different industry, totally different commodities and products, because I had to learn about valves and gas train. But I just find when you have an engineering degree, the technical becomes quite easy to pick up. And that's what they noticed when I got to Weber, that I was picking up a lot of the technical, and I was like, yeah, because I'm an engineer. So the engineering career is totally great, and a great way, to start and see where you're going. And I just wanted to show this because I think you guys do know this, but there's a lot of student programs. So if you are planning on studying engineering in college, CEF has, and I think Amon, you probably know this, they have a merit-based scholarship. I think the application cycle starts in January and closes April 1st. So you should be able to apply. And it's for anyone graduating, a high school senior graduating in Chicago. And if you're accepted for a 4-year university engineering program. So there's a lot of offerings through CF for you guys if you are interested. So I went through the whole presentation. What do you guys think?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, yes, one person had a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. So as the years of working as an engineer, how does what was it like? Was the chances of you getting promotions and stuff like that, like how often does that happen?
That's a very good question. And I get asked that a lot because, again, I grew quite quickly in my engineering career. I started as a process engineer on the floor. And within 2 years, I became a supervisor. A year later, I became managers of different buildings for quality. Then I went into purchasing. And I'm going to speak on Weber in particular. When I was hired at Weber, I started as a director of purchasing, and responsible for all the materials and direct materials that go into manufacturing the grill. Within 9 months, they promoted me to VP. So that's kind of quick. I was surprised, but they saw my impact. They saw the value I was giving and the change that was happening with our suppliers and the protocol with our suppliers. So I always tell people that when you're in your role, soak up and learn as much as you can and start implementing change. When people see that change and see that it's actually beneficial, and for me, suppliers were calling the CEOs, suppliers were calling people. It's like, where did you find this girl? She's really helping us and blah, 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 blah. And that made me visible to the point that I got the promotion. And I mean, I'm saying now I'm not there. It's not because I don't have an impact or valuable. It's because the company's not making money. And you're going to go through cycles. Every company has it where, and you guys even may have parents where layoffs happen because people aren't buying grills, people aren't buying cars, people aren't doing this, and they have to lay off staff to keep the company afloat. It's unfortunate it happened to me, but I know my impact and my value, and I'm really not worried of finding employment just because of my various background. And again, not only do I have purchasing, I have quality management, I have supplier quality management, I have project management, lots of good skills that a lot of companies can embrace and take on. So I'm telling you, Ebenezer, be visible, make change. When you see change and you see that it's being impactful to the company, you will move forward. Number two, you always need a cheerleader. And I'm saying that it's always good to have a boss or someone higher than you that can be your advocate. So you need that person to help move forward because a lot of change happens from top down. But someone at the down needs to impact someone up to say, yes, this change is valuable and we can continue to do it. So I always say it's really good to have a good boss that can recognize you and make you move forward.
Okay, thank you.
And just one more comment because it's so awesome that I see a lot of females. Again, not discounting the guys. I love you guys, but the girls. Because when I went to school, the industrial engineering class, there were 175 students. 10 of us were girls. Okay, so we need the women in all these organizations because if you look, there are studies that show being a diverse group, being an inclusive group, totally helps the bottom line of any organization. So I'm encouraging the girls that have a thought of engineering, please push forward. And I'm ready to be your mentor if you need anyone to talk to or help, because again, I don't like I'm a VP. I was a VP at the only one that was an engineer, right? And the only one different. I don't think we need to be unicorns. We can provide value to any organization. So I'm so happy to see a lot of ladies with the interest of engineering because it's awesome. And you'd be surprised, even to this day, I can walk into a boardroom and people are like, is she the one going to be serving the tea or like what is she doing, until I start speaking and they realize, oh my gosh, she's got something up there. Yeah. And I think everyone still to this day, people still get shocked when they see a female in a technical career. So I need that group to grow. I need you guys to kind of be the trailblazers and encourage other women. Like, I like math, but when I ask other girls, they're like, I don't like math. But engineering is not only about math, it's just about the logical steps to solve a problem. So we need to the girls need to embrace technical careers because we need us. Guys, are you agreeing? We need the girls?
Thank you for saying all that.
Anyways.
And we'll definitely share your contact information with all of our members if you're okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm totally fine.
You've talked about how you kind of had experience in a lot of different aspects of engineering and you've kind of fit into different roles. Have you ever considered switching around or moving to different disciplines within engineering? Or have you always felt like industrial engineering is my thing?
Well, I always felt industrial engineering was my thing. And I think just because I'm a very social person and engaging with people. When I actually went to my first engineering seminar and saw the disciplines at the time in the university, I got 10 pamphlets, aerospace, civil, mechanical, chemical. They had a whole bunch. I probably read each of those pamphlets 10 times before I was like, industrial engineering, because I just like integration of the factor into the systems. I like improving processes. And a lot of the roles I got, they chose me because they saw me change something in a previous department and say, we need you here. Can you help here? And that I think that's the core of me, continuous improvement and change management. So for me, industrial engineering is a place I just love to be in, so.
Thank you. Great answer. Are there any questions from anyone else?
I was wondering if you had to relocate a lot for your job.
Yes, and good question. So I started in Canada and I worked for a automotive manufacturer. So we made switches and relays for vehicles. And I spent 15 years there before they wanted to promote me. And at the time of the promotion, for 2 years before that, every other week I had a suitcase at the door because I was traveling to St. Charles. And I was traveling to St. Charles because I was helping them with lean manufacturing in that plant. And the team was there. So every other week I was on the plane, to the point that the president said, we need to move you. And I was like, oh no, I'm cool here. Like I have 3 kids, I can manage, I'm managing the time. And it just got bigger than life, to the point that the president gave me a very huge promotion, giving me the charge of all of purchasing. So I had the charge of 20 people and they were all in St. Charles. 5 of them were still in Canada. And he's like, you got to move. So as part of this, I tell people, as part of the relocation package, we the family got 5 trips to Chicago just to check it out. They paid it, all expense paid. I took my kids to United Center. I got them on the center floor and they got to see the Bulls. We went like all these different places just to get them to feel Chicago. And then I moved and we moved to St. Charles. I live now in Geneva, Illinois. But it was a very big move that I was in charge of more people, to the point when they built Mexico, I was in charge of Mexico as well in terms of the quality. So I used to travel once a month to Mexico once I was in charge of them, but I was also became the global auditor. So I traveled globally. So I've been to Thailand, I've been to Korea, I've been to Japan, I've been to China, auditing suppliers, visiting suppliers, looking for suppliers. So I didn't have to relocate for those places, but that's another great thing with engineering. You can touch every continent you want and see different things, experience different cultures. And it it just grew me culturally. I mean, my family is originally from Nigeria. They emigrated to Canada. So I was born in Canada, but I got to experience the Japanese culture, very different than ours. They don't typically see women in management. So it was very different for them to embrace me. I got to go to Thailand, to South Korea. I mean, besides the foods, Malaysia, besides the foods that are really good, you get to experience the different cultures. Like in Malaysia, which is unlike the US, The plant I went to, because it's traditionally Muslim, there's a prayer room inside the building. So all the employees have their opportunity to pray, which is very different than what you see in the US. But that was the culture. And there were times while I was there and having a meeting, we had to pause because it was prayer time. And those are the things you need to embrace in terms of different cultures. They still work like us, they still have different things, but because of where they are culturally, these are the things that are part of their business practice. And it's just a great learning experience. So that was my major relocation. And who knows, a lot of the places that are looking for me now are in different states. I may relocate again, but again, that's okay. I mean, there's great learning experience going into other places and seeing how they work, right? It's great being mobile, and I totally love all my travel experience. I can tell you lots of stories about one time I got lost in mainland China and no one spoke English. So lots of great stories, but I'm still here. So, but good question, Nafisa.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids nowadays are pretty interested in like traveling globally, and it's nice to see that it can kind of be a part of your work as well. I know
Yes,
my dad also travels a lot for work, and he's had some great experiences overseas. So yeah, that's a great aspect of it.
yes, yeah. So it's totally great. I mean, again, I did a lot of. I would say prior to COVID, I was probably in the air 30% of the time during the year. So I did a lot of traveling when I was with Weber, mostly domestic and then Mexico. But I did have an opportunity with Weber to go to Italy and to go to Poland because I had suppliers in both locations. And Poland, we had a brand new Weber facility. So that was my first time going there. And I always say suppliers always want to embrace you and their country. So even though I was in northern Italy, I, because of time difference, you're usually there the weekends. And the supplier took me to Venice and Milan. So like Venice and Milan, like it was gorgeous there, like the history, like just seeing it and hearing them speak about it historically. Again, it's culture. And it's to know where the Italians come from. Understanding how he communicates with me is because of his culture and how he treats me. So, you get really great experiences traveling abroad, right? Totally. Like to the point, like I'm like, I should just go there on vacation, like not on business. So it's just wonderful. So I do expect, especially these days, if people are hybrid or remote, there'll be a lot more traveling in a lot of people's careers. Engineering for sure. Just because a lot of the engineering core work is not only local. You can go many places. So
All right. If there are no more questions, I think we can wrap this up. Cool. Thank you so much.
I have one more. Oh, sorry. I
Please
have
go.
one more question. Did
yes,
you
yeah.
ever did you ever face imposter syndrome, and how did you go about like responding to it?
So, for all the other ones that might not know, imposter syndrome is where, especially for women, they don't think they are good enough for the role they're in. Um, and for me, I'm going to say I haven't. And I haven't because I have been blessed with very good managers to the point that when I was starting my career, I had a manager who saw so much potential in me, more than I thought of myself, that he just put me in roles. So it wasn't like I volunteered. I was asked to be in a role because they felt my worth. And I always tell people I was afforded really good mentors that said I could do it. So I would say I've never experienced imposter syndrome in my role. However, where I was working, my coworker, who was also a VP, a female, and she was in charge of all our contract manufacturers. So they are the ones in Asia that make the finished grill and just ship it to the US. So she was in charge with the local. And she was very smart. I thought her very smart, but she always thought she was not good enough. And she felt that because she was in rooms where it was just males and she felt her voice wasn't heard. But I always tell people, especially women, we are in this remote teams just like this is now. But when you are in the workplace, even if it's hybrid, the days that you need to be in the office, be in the office. When you're in the office, people book rooms for meetings. Be in the room. So, this is what I told this lady. When you're there, be in the room and be visible because you're here because they value you and you have a contribution. Make the contribution in front of those people. Then they will, again, she won't feel that, oh my gosh, I have nothing to say or what my work isn't valuable. When you're in the room with everyone else, they realize your work is valuable and then they start asking you questions. So, although I like the whole Zoom, I know we do it, but if there's ever a chance where they're like, where you guys say, hey, we're going to meet at Chili's and we're all going to be here, I'd be there. I'd be the first one there. The social interaction is still very important. And for women, especially that feel the imposter syndrome, they need to be in front of someone. They need to be in the physical. Sometimes behind the screen doesn't help. And because a lot of people, and I see some of them, and because maybe you're in pajamas, they don't want to put on the video. Just put on the video. Okay? I don't need your makeup. I just need your face. I just need that interaction. So I always tell people feeling that be visible. You're in the organization and you were hired because you're valuable. So show your value. But great question, Sarah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag, right? I feel like for Case, we like doing a lot of online events because we have kids from throughout Chicago and it's hard to figure out transportation. But we definitely try as much as possible to have in-person events because that's when we actually make connections with each other and we get the most benefit out of it.
Yeah. So guys, I mean, again, you have my email. You can reach out to me anytime, no problem. If you guys are on LinkedIn, please hook up like now, guys. I know you guys are in high school or whatever, but hook up on LinkedIn. I mean, that is a great networking resource. I have found suppliers. I've found new suppliers for, companies. I've had really great networking opportunities there. So please look me up. I know it says Eka here, but my full name is Ekanem, and that's what it probably pops up as. EKAN as in Nancy, EM as in Mary. And I'm on there. So please, if you don't have LinkedIn, that's very, very good resource for networking. Okay. And please, and take my email as well. So if you have any questions, if you have any thing, want someone to look at your resume, I'm here for you guys. Okay. I want you guys to succeed. I mean, that's why I chose to do the volunteering and helping because really everyone needs a cheerleader. Everyone needs an advocate. And I want to be your advocate. I want to help you guys succeed because when you succeed, I mean, the world succeeds, the economy succeeds. And we need bright people like you guys to keep the industries going.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any more guys? Oh, no problem. No problem. Okay, guys, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. We all learned a lot for sure. And your support means a lot. I can feel how genuine you are in trying to support us. And
No
I
problem.
really hope some of these kids do reach out. I'll definitely get you on LinkedIn too.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Have a great Saturday.
Bye.
Bye.